What's up, guys? I hope everybody's had a great holiday so far. It's about to be New Year's, but before we all have to go back to work, I wanted to get some more work done on the project Buell. So I went ahead and I received my valve spring compressor tool. It just came in the mail. We're going to be using that today, and we're going to be working on cylinder head number 1. So we've got 2 valve springs we got to get out, and we're going to be doing some cleaning, and hopefully we can get this cylinder all put back together before New Year's. So you can see there's a lot of carbon buildup here in the combustion chamber, and as we look into this is the intake valve. It is really dirty in there. If you look at our first video, you saw that we actually found water in the cylinder, so I'm not surprised at seeing all of this junk in here. So we're going to go ahead and pull out both valves, and we're going to clean this thing from top to bottom. I got a full gasket kit, so we're going to be replacing everything inside here. So let's go ahead and open up our valve spring compressor tool and get these valves out. Alright, so this is a setup for the valve spring compressor. As you can see, got the compressor fitted right up against the valve spring. And on this side, I actually rigged up several layers of rubber that I had lying around, just so that the point on this threaded rod here was really sharp, and I think it's just because it's a cheap valve spring compressor, and I didn't want it marking up my valves, so I just put that as kind of a barrier. And now I'm going to be tightening this end with this little silver rod here, and you'll see the valve spring start to compress, and the goal is to break free these 2 little keepers here. You can see the split line right there in the middle. So once this thing starts to compress, those keepers will fall out. I should be able to catch them with my little magnetic pen there, and then the valves will be free to be removed. So let's see how it goes. Alright, let's give this guy a turn. And we should see it start to compress. And you hear that little bump there, and now you can see the keepers. And I think we might be able to just pull them on out with that magnetic tool I've got there. Not quite. So let's go a little bit further. Here's one keeper. Come on now. And here is the other one. So you can see this is what holds the valve spring in place, and as soon as we decompress this tool, we'll be able to remove the valve spring as well as the valves. Slowly back it on out here. And as we do, should be able to get the valve springs out. Keep it going. And this tool I got on Amazon for about, I think it was a little less than 20 bucks, right around $20. The one that they sell from, or actually they let you rent it from Advanced Auto Parts, I saw mixed reviews about it, and these old-fashioned ones here I heard did the trick, and it looks like they did, because as you can see, the valve spring is now out. And out comes the valve. Look at that. Oh, that's just gross. So we're gonna get this guy cleaned up. It's kind of hard to see in the camera, but we got a lot of work to do on both the intake and the exhaust valve. So now it's a process of cleaning, and we're going to repeat this same process on the exhaust valve. Get them both out, get them both cleaned together, and then we'll probably lap these valves, and then we'll put them back in. Alright, so I've applied some gasket remover, and we're just going to let this sit on here for about 15 minutes, and it should help me scrape the rest of this residue off this side, and depending on how well it works and how much I like it, we'll continue this process on the other side as well. And in the meantime, while this is setting, we're going to go ahead and start cleaning our valves to get them ready to be lapped. Alright, so as you can see, I've got the valves individually labeled, and I started working on this one a little bit last night, and this one was completely rusted and disgusting, so you can already see what an improvement this is. And the bottom is really what we're going to be focusing on to finish this guy out, and then we're going to move on to the exhaust valve. But the technique that I decided to go with here, rather than just having it static and scrubbing it, is I actually went and got some tubing here that just happens to be a nice tight fit around the valve stem. And we drop that guy right on there. And what this is going to do is it's going to protect our valve stem as we insert this into the drill, and then we'll use the drill to turn this thing while applying some pressure, some Scotch-Brite pad, and some WD-40 degreaser. Alright, so that time lapse did it. I think this is good enough for me. We got a nice enough surface to be able to suction to the bottom of the valve. And honestly, from what I've heard, it's a pain in the butt to get a good suction anyways. Just because the surface is porous. Well, it's either porous or pitted, one of the two, or both. But either way, I should be able to put an image up on the screen of what this valve used to look like compared to what it looks like now. And that's a pretty night and day difference there. So this was the worst of the two in this cylinder. So we're going to go ahead and work on the exhaust valve now that this one's out of the way. We know it can't be any worse than that, so that's good. So let's go ahead and repeat that process, and we'll just continue to let the gasket remover dry. And once we finish the second valve, we'll wipe everything off, try to clean up all the surfaces, change the gaskets, lap the valves, and that'll wrap this guy up. Alright, so now we're going to work our way back over to the gasket remover, and it really hardened up and became almost like this foamy texture. And what I'm doing is I'm actually spraying a little WD-40 on here, and then I'm just taking the maroon Scotch-Brite pad and rubbing it on here, and this is working pretty well. So we want a nice smooth surface for our new gasket. Wipe it off here. And that is looking a lot better than it was originally. You're gonna have to go through this a couple of times, and then this thing should be looking pretty clean. Alright, so as I was preparing to lap the valves, I went ahead and took a closer look at the valve guides, and you can see there's a little bit of surface rust on the inside, and I don't really know how deep it is. It doesn't look to be too deep, but I don't want to run my guide or my valves in and out of these guides with that rust in there. There's a little in this one too. It's kind of hard to see. But I took a measurement with my calipers, and they're about a 1/4 inch ID. So what I need to do is I need to get some 1/4 inch brushes and just run them through there, and probably brass bristle. That's a mouthful. And I want to run them through the guides before doing the lapping procedure, because with the lapping procedure you got to put the valve in and out of the guides, and we just spent all this time cleaning up the valves, so I would hate to damage the stems with these old rusty guides. Alright, it's been a couple weeks since you saw me polishing the valves last, and I just want to show you for comparison here. This was the intake valve after we had gotten everything off of it for the most part. I'm trying to focus the camera in here. And it's not in horrible shape. You can see a little bit of pitting there. But this valve possibly could have been reused, but even still, you know, I had my reservations. Now, that was the intake valve. I want to show you the exhaust valve. So if we get a good close-up on this guy, see if I can focus the camera here. There we go. Look at all of the pitting on this valve. There is no way that this would seal, no matter how much lapping. Look at that. That's just awful. So the consensus was to buy new valves. The usual packing paper. This should be my invoice, and I paid $163.86 for these items. As you can see, I got the valve guides and the intake valves and exhaust valves, both valves. So anyways, oh, it's not going to be clear bags. Okay, well, at least we can see the valve guides. Much better than what are currently in the cylinder head. There's the other set of valve guides. And I'll open these up at a later date. I want to keep things organized because I am actually going to be taking the cylinder head to a local shop and having them do the remainder of the cleaning and installation, because I don't have a press here. I need to get the new valve guides in, and I want them to cut me new valve seats, and that is not really something that I feel that I can do here in my garage. So I would much rather have the professionals take my cylinder head and do the work that needs to be done. So I'm going to be making an appointment now that I have everything, and I will keep you updated as the process moves forward.